Assalamu alaikum and welcome back after the break. As promised, we're going to be bringing you someone very special yet again today. This time around, it's someone from an organization that is quite unique in the essence that it's as Pakistani as it is Canadian. They're young, they're intelligent, they're informed, socially active, and probably the mustaqbil that Pakistan needs today. I'm talking about the Pakistan Youth Alliance, and joining us from the organization is the president from the University of Toronto Mississauga chapter, Romessa Khalid. Romessa, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
I'm good, thanks. So just to start up here, why don't you tell our viewers a bit about what Pakistan Youth Alliance is and what is it that you guys do?
Well, basically, the Pakistan Youth Alliance initially was started off in Pakistan in 2007 in response to the emergency imposed by General Musharraf, but it's not affiliated with any political party, and after that it's focused more on social activism. And it just expanded after that to different areas like the UAE, and now we have a chapter in Canada. And in Canada itself now it's expanded to different cities like Calgary and Toronto and Edmonton. So that's where we are at right now.
So when you say that now this is the Canadian chapter we're talking about, or Toronto one specifically, how is your work different from, say, what might be happening within Pakistan itself?
Well, definitely you have a difference because you're not on the ground, you're not in Pakistan. So the way you tackle certain issues is going to be different. I think personally what the PYA at UTM does is threefold. We focus on three things. Number one, we do fundraising, which we've been doing a lot, especially after the floods. We do social activism. We've done things like the Peace Project, which I'll hopefully talk to you about, and we do raising awareness about issues because we can't go on the ground, we can't go to flood-affected areas, but we can collect donations, we can collect money, and most importantly, I think we can work to sort of improve the image of Pakistan because we all know that that's needed right now. We're at a shortage. So we do focus on getting involved in the Canadian community and bringing Pakistanis into Canadian communities.
Okay, speaking of UTM, I just have a question here. Is it just available to students in UTM or is it available to everyone else? And also, how is it that you guys are creating like political and social awareness through these events? Any events that you'd want to elaborate on?
The answer to your first question is membership-wise, we're open to everyone, whether you're a university student or not. But there are certain privileges that come with being a University of Toronto student, no matter what campus, which is basically that you can vote on certain motions that are set by the club. You can vote in elections. You can run for elections.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but other than that, there's really no restriction about attending events. You can definitely do that.
And you had a second question as well in terms of
the events.
So we also did the Zindabad campaign, and what the Zindabad campaign is basically we sold wristbands. But the good thing about those is we had the single word Zindabad written on those wristbands. It didn't say Pakistan Zindabad, it just said Zindabad.
Right.
And we wanted to signify, long live or let hope, continue. So we've been selling those ever since, and
it's actually very creative as well because you're not just focusing on the Pakistani community. Anyone can buy those wristbands.
Definitely, anyone, whether you're at UTM, whether you're Pakistani, and people have really liked them and they have bought them, and so we've managed to raise, I think, over 1,500 in sales from those wristbands so far.
Very impressive.
So I think it's more about being in support of life, other than just being in support of any nationalistic identity. Which is phenomenal. Just out of curiosity, how does the PYA differ from a typical, say, Pakistani Students Association, which you'll find in any university?
I don't know about other universities, I can't speak, but I think at the U of T campus, the PSA has been doing a fantastic job. But the PSAs are usually more geared towards promoting Pakistani culture. But we did surveys, we did talk to students, and they wanted a little bit more. They wanted to get involved, especially after the floods, especially, what's going on back home. So they wanted to be a sort of engine for change. So we decided to open a chapter of the PYA at UTM, and we wanted to cater to those needs. So we've been doing events ever since, like the Peace Project, which was basically inspired by a mini documentary made by an Indian college student. And what she did was she looked at how Pakistanis and Indians are portrayed in Bollywood. And we found it very interesting how it's managed to change from Pakistan is the villain to Veer Zara, or movies that sort of promote cross-border interaction. So we decided to go around at UTM and ask Indians and Pakistanis what they think about each other, what they think about people back home. and the response we got was phenomenal. You know, we had Indians talking about peace, we had Pakistanis saying, you know, this is my best friend, I'm just
Right.
like her. It was a fantastic experience.
These days,
so
I mean, our views have changed a lot from what
Yeah.
they were before. Now, you guys are doing a really good job for Pakistan and even for our community here. But what is it that your goal is for the future? Like, do you guys want to go international? What is it that you guys want to do?
I think we've gone international to quite an extent, but sometimes you have to make it official. So we want to get registered in Canada so that we can issue tax receipts. We can be there at an official level and help people out. So I think that would be our immediate goal, and expand after.
Because your roots are pretty political in a sense, would you say, and I know this is a bit of a tricky question for you to answer because you're only part of a single chapter, but would you say that the PYA's roots have always been anti-establishment in a sense that, you know, because the roots come from going against the tide when the emergency rule was declared?
That's a really good question, and I think you can judge from the issues that the PYA has tackled from the beginning. It's not always anti-establishment. It depends on what the issue is. For example, the judiciary movement, we were very supportive of that.
Right.
We basically try not to make that difference between being pro-establishment or anti-establishment. We try to do what's right. And then again, the PYA is not, at least not here at UTM, it's not politically affiliated. We let people have their own political opinions, but we do try to keep that, maintain that line between what is justifiable and what is not, what is right for human rights, what goes against human rights.
Right.
So we take large sweeping stances on certain issues, but when it comes to the small details, we leave that up to the members.
I've got one more question which I have to ask. I'm sorry. So you guys have, you know, a great sort of rich history of activism from a Pakistani sort of organization perspective. But being sort of an organization within Canada, and you guys tend to represent Pakistani students within a Canadian context as well, have you ever felt that it would be appropriate for you to be activists in Canada as well? Because I think that we're at a really interesting point in our history with a very colorful mayor at this point who has very strong opinions about ethnic minorities. Do you think the Pakistani Youth Alliance would ever get involved in sort of activism within Canada itself?
I don't know, it depends, because living in Canada, you just have to be careful. We're living in Canada. We try not to, you know, kind of, what's it called, encroach on the rights that have been given to us and kind of, you know, bite the hand that feeds you. But as long as we're standing up for something that's right, which every Canadian does, it's what being Canadian stands for, then we will definitely, I think, tackle that issue.
Okay.
Okay, so unfortunately we do have to wrap up. तो मैं आपसे एक आखिरी सवाल यहाँ पूछूंगी कि in your own opinion आपको क्या लगता है कि पाकिस्तान को किस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है? Obviously जिस तरह कि आप देख रहे हैं आजकल हालात हैं, सलमान तसीर के साथ जो हुआ and all that. So हम सब लोगों को क्या करने की ज़रूरत है? पाकिस्तान, what is it that Pakistan is missing कि हम लोग वापस अपने पैरों पे खड़े हों and, you know, थोड़ी तरक्की की तरफ बढ़ें?
Well, I think there are a lot of things, लेकिन एक जो बहुत अहम बात मैं ये कहना चाहूँगी कि हर इशू पर अपनी एक स्टैंड लेने से पहले आप ज़रूर सोचिए about the issue. जब भी कोई पाकिस्तान की हिस्ट्री में कोई भी इवेंट होती है, for example सलमान तासीर की assassination, बेनज़ीर भुट्टो की assassination, या क्रिकेट मैच ही कोई हार जाए, तो there's always an extreme, two extremes that arise from the situation. या तो for example सलमान तासीर को बिल्कुल ही सेंट बनाकर लोग बैठ गए, या तो फिर बिल्कुल ही they're celebrating his death, which is completely wrong. So I think सबसे ज़्यादा ज़रूरत ये है कि आप हर इशू के बारे में सोच कर अपनी डिसीजन लें. Don't get into emotions, क्योंकि हमारी पूरी तारीख भरी हुई है इमोशनल.
आप जब जज्बाती भी होते हो तब आप बहुत नेगेटिव चीज़ें सोचते हो और करते हो.
Exactly. So that would be my, you know.
By and large हमें काफ़ी जज्बाती अवाम है, and I think यहाँ से ज़्यादा सोचें. हाँ.
Exactly, but it's great to see कि, you know, there are students like you जो इस तरह के काम कर रहे हैं, and I would definitely want to say कि हम सबों को ज़रूरत है कि हम इस तरह छोटे-छोटे मतलब we should play a part on it. Obviously एक बंदा जो है वो world नहीं change कर सकता overnight, लेकिन we should all definitely look up to her, and it was a pleasure having you, and I'm very inspired by you, by the way.
And thank you very much for coming in the studio. And I mean, as they always say, that if you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Exactly. So I think a great message coming from an amazingly young lady that if nothing else, start thinking. Exactly. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break. Thank you very much for joining us, Romessa.
Thank you so much for having me.
And of course, we'll see you on the other side of it. थोड़ी अब हल्की फुल्की बातों के लिए.